Going to give you a quick overview of what it contains, what it consists of. This is certainly not meant to replace the communications function, but to me, it's kind of like communications on steroids. It's a time saver, it's a time machine. Anyone who's ever been on the media relations side, and I know there's some crisis management folks here, when fight or flight is hitting and your heart is pounding, you're trying to come up with messages instead of taking 42 minutes, you can get it done a lot more quickly now. And so there's a lot of implications for this, and I'll just give you a quick overview of what it is. So I'm sure everyone is familiar with ChatGPT from OpenAI and all of the coverage that's been around that. So a little while ago, they allowed people to make their own versions of it. And so when you go into the builder, this is what you see. There's a little screen where you can come up with a name, you can come up with a logo for it, a bit of a description, and then the instructions is where all the magic happens. And so basically every organization, if you want to build one of these, and I'm sure some of the folks who are here today are here to figure out how to make one of these for themselves, for their clients, for their business, which I think is fantastic as well. So for this one, I wanted to create something that could be a media relations or a media training sidekick, that resource that's sitting beside you to help you craft messages, prep for an interview. And so what I loaded it up with was information from my online course. So many of you know that I created a course about 3 years ago now that's been online. It's got about 400 participants in it. And so there's a whole bunch of videos in this course, like 35 classroom style videos, and there's 29,000 words of content. So it's basically a textbook for everything that I know about media relations, and not only tactical, but from a kind of philosophical standpoint, truthfulness, timeliness, all that kind of stuff. So the other thing that I trained it with was blog posts from myself from 2008 until the last couple of years. And so copied all of those, put all those documents into the tool. And so basically it uses that training data to provide feedback. And so before I was going to bring it to the public, or before I was going to make it a part of my course, I really wanted to make sure that this thing didn't suck, that it actually added some value. And I was actually blown away with some of the things that it can do. So this is what it is. I've called it my media interview helper. Probably not the best name, but I wanted to make it kind of friendly and something that wouldn't be too intimidating to folks. And so this is what it's trained on at this point in time. I don't have the content from all the videos in my course. That's going to be one of the projects that I have for the next week or so, is to take those, have them transcribed by AI, and throw all that content in there as well. And so you're looking at basically 3 decades of media relations knowledge and practice and strategy that I've kind of dumped in here. And it's not a very elegant word, but anyway, that's what it's trained on. So, and from a philosophical standpoint, all of us know that these tools can be used for good, or they can be used to have your organization kind of be deceptive. And so it's been trained as much as you can from an ethical point of view. Anytime there's a question made about what a tactic or strategy should be, it prioritizes truthfulness, transparency, timeliness, empathy, addressing the elephant in the room. So this is to the highest extent that I can. It's built for the positive version of this. So I want to show you just a quick overview of some of the types of things that I've been toying around with, and I'm sure I'm not even scratching the surface in terms of what this thing can do. And again, it's been a really interesting process figuring out what it's capable of. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview, and then I'm going to open it up. We'll go into the actual live tool, and if anyone here wants to put in some prompts or check out some things or see how it works, be more than happy to do that. So at the top of the screen, and one of the prompts that just comes up is, what are some of the top tips for an interview? And so it goes through all of that training data and comes up with this in an original format. And none of this stuff is going to be revolutionary, but if you are someone who is a frontline spokesperson, maybe you're not a communications person, you're out in the field, you're doing an interview, and you need some really quick information. So preparation, understanding your message, practice, address the elephant in the room. So it goes down the list. I'm not going to read them all out because you can read faster than I can speak. The flip side of that, are there any pitfalls or traps that I should avoid as a spokesperson? And again, it's interesting to me because it's written in a new voice, but it's all the same stuff that I've been preaching, and it's kind of in order. So the repetition of negative language, which I see as one of the most common and most serious mistakes that people make in their media interviews. Don't speculate, sharing personal opinions, don't fill the awkward pause. Those things are going to be natural in interviews. So again, a nice quick list, and it comes up with these things in about 4 or 5 seconds, just populates it. And what I've also found is really cool is you can actually customize it. So instead of 10 tips, boil it down to 3. Or if I'm having a trade media interview versus like a 60-minute style controversial interview, you can use it for that kind of prep. Another kind of thing that you can go into, and this is, again, is for someone doing a certain type of interview, you can get into nuance that you might not have at a higher level. So I have a TV interview that's going to be done by Zoom later today. What specific tips should I keep in mind to excel in this type of TV interview as opposed to one with a camera face to face? And so, again, it gives you a nice quick overview there because even after the pandemic, we're still seeing people with their head is at the bottom of the screen, or you're looking up their nose, or there's light behind them. And so all you see are shadows. So it talks about your technical setup, framing yourself in the shot, where to look at the lens and not at the screen. All these little elements that help you kind of level up those interviews and body language and practice and prep and all that. But to me, the most mind blowing part of this, and this is the part that I was most skeptical about, is will this thing be able to craft messages that I can actually use to go to media? And I'm not saying that that's necessarily, I wouldn't take this, copy, paste, and go and talk to the Globe and Mail or the Wall Street Journal, but it's a real great first step. It's a great first draft. And I remember, my days writing these things out, it could take you 40 minutes to come up with a really solid set of messages. And there are a lot of situations where you don't have 40 minutes from a crisis management standpoint, or even from a proactive standpoint. If you're trying to get a media interview that you're trying to prevent your competitor from doing, getting back to them more quickly is going to help. So when you put in the overview, say, help me draft messages for an interview, it's going to ask you for a little bit of information. And so again, because this is outside of our companies, it's OpenAI, and this is a company that I do have trust and respect for so far with their brand. I think they're trying to do things properly. I still would not put confidential information in there. So at a generic level, here's what I put for a sample document today. So I'm the CEO of a hospital near Toronto. We're currently dealing with a cyber attack. We've called IT support. We've contacted the police. Our systems are currently compromised, but it's not affecting healthcare. Patients and staff are safe. We're assessing the situation and damage. We are reaching out to everyone impacted to let them know. The media is calling us for comment. Can you please draft some high-level messages for me? So this is the first crack that it comes back with, and it's pretty good, but I didn't think it was great. And then I want to talk about what you can kind of do. So it comes back and says, as the CEO of a hospital dealing with the situation, you have to do da 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 da. And it gives you some actual verbatim messages. And these are going to sound kind of cliched. Our top priority is the safety and well-being of our patients and staff. We want to assure everyone that despite the attack, our healthcare systems remain unaffected, da da da. And you go down the list in terms of addressing the attack, transparency, protection of sensitive data. But it sounded a little robotic to me. And so I went back to it and I said, that's a good start, but can you make it a little bit less kind of cliched? We take these things very seriously, and avoid using the term cyber attack, because I'm a stickler for that. I know many of you are. You don't want to use such a negative term. Like, you're not trying to avoid it, but you don't want to make it worse. And so to me, the second set of messages they came back with were pretty good. And I think that this literally saves you 40 minutes to an hour in terms of trying to come up with custom messages that you can then tweak and reorder and do a little bit of editing on. And in a crisis situation, it would be just so valuable to save that time. So, safety of our patients and staff remains our unwavering focus, despite recent challenges with our computer system. So they changed the kind of wording there. I assure you that our healthcare services are not disrupted and we continue to operate at full capacity. And that you continue to go down the list. And so I'm trying to think again, how can I make this as useful and practical as possible if I'm the person on the front line? So the next thing I did is said, can you please provide me with a list of potential questions? Like if we're going to be doing an interview with an outlet, what are the questions we can expect? And I asked it to be kind of tough. And so it came back with what I thought were some pretty generic, who, what, when, where, why type questions. So can you provide specific details about what caused the disruption? Is there any indication that the patient's or staff data has been compromised or accessed by unauthorized individuals? How quickly did your team respond? Were there any previous indications? So this is fairly generic kind of stuff, but helpful. Like I think that if you're going to do an interview, you're definitely get questions like this. Then I wanted to go down to that next level because if I'm going to be preparing a spokesperson, I want to make sure that the practice interview is worse than the one they're going to have in real life, so that you're making sure that they can address it. So I went back and I said, "Great start, but can you please provide me a much harder but legitimate questions a reporter might ask?" And so you can see from just the depth of these questions, these would be harder to answer. So can you confirm if any critical systems were compromised? Why was there a delay in informing the public and the media about the issue? Given the sensitivity of this information, how can you assure the public that their information hasn't been irreversibly compromised? Each one of these is like a little Rubik's cube, right? And so I think that's helpful enough on its own to come up with this list of questions that you can give to your CEO or your CIO or CTO or whomever and say, look, this is what we're likely to get from, Teresa Boyle at the Toronto Star, for example. And then the icing on the cake is to actually have the system come up with the tough questions and then also come up with the answers for it. So I put in this prompt to say, great list. Now provide me a draft answer for each of those. And it comes up with answers that I have to say, they're pretty solid. So in terms of the disruption, while I can't divulge specific details about system functionalities for security reasons, I assure you that we're thoroughly assessing every aspect of the incident. Our immediate focus was understanding the situation. When we talk about preventative failures, like cybersecurity is an evolving challenge. Despite our security measures, this incident has occurred. Like I, you know, we can talk about the quality of these messages, but again, to me, it's not that you take this, copy and paste it and send it off to a media outlet. It's just the time saving element. So these are just some applications, and I've only played with this thing maybe a couple hours in total, and I've been blown away. And so I wanted to kind of share it with folks and let them know that this kind of thing exists out there. These were the rest of the answers for that. So at this point in time, I have this thing living inside my media training course. So it's the Art of the Great Media Interview online, kind of on demand version. It's a pretty deep dive. It's like 3 to 4 hours of content. And oh, we have someone else popping in here. And so that is basically what it looks like when you go in and you hit the little link and you get to open that up. You can use it as an app on your phone. You can use it through your computer. And I just think you can shy away from this stuff and, plug your ears and say AI is going to take everybody's jobs, or you can jump on this thing like a horse and ride it and tame it and use it to make yourself more efficient. So that's the version of that I've chosen. This is the page on my site where you go in and purchase the course. And if anybody's interested, I'll send out an email later on with a bit of a discount code if anyone is interested in that. But that's basically what this thing looks like. And I've been talking like a fire hose for 15 minutes. So I'd like to open it up. I'm going to stop recording as well, just so we can, I'll be able to share that piece with folks who weren't able to make it and emailed in, but I'd like people to ask questions without being recorded.